I'm Pam Raven. I'm a coordinator in the EdTech department, and I'm joined here today by my colleagues who are also curious about so many things, and that is the intention of this series. So I'll start off by welcoming my new assistant superintendent, got it this time, Matt Tessier. If you'd like to say hi real quick, Matt.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'm very excited to be learning with you here today. As Pam had said, my name is Matthew Tessier, Assistant Superintendent of Innovation. It's just great to be here.
Thank you. And then my other colleague is Mark Brickley. Saying hello.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see you guys. Thank you for being here.
I have Jessica Sierras here.
Hey, everyone.
And our director, Alicia Gallegos Butters, is actually on vacation. So I believe she's in an airplane as we speak, heading off to a wonderful destination. So, all right, I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll get started. Let's see. In fact, you know what? I just realized, Mark, I did that thing where you don't share the little check mark in the bottom. Okay. Do that again. All right. So our topic for today is AR/VR. We're just really coming in to get our feet dipped into the area of AR/VR. So today is kind of a high-level discussion on what is AR/VR, how is it being used in a couple of classrooms. We have two guest speakers today. And let me switch slides here. Boop, boop. There we go. I'll come back to that one in a second. So we're going to talk just about basically what are AR, VR, MR, and then what's it got to do with XR, all of these little abbreviations that you might be hearing, why they're such powerful learning tools, what's the big hubbub about them, some classroom examples from our two guest speakers today. So we have Renee Jager and Christine Dixon, who are classroom teachers, talking about their experiences using it and what they did with their students. And then we'll talk a little bit about how AR/VR is being used in industry, because we know a lot of the time the way that industry goes is the way that education and other things will follow, as those are different pathways to jobs and interests that students may have. So just backing up for a second, I wanted to pull your attention to some of our upcoming events from the EdTech department. We have a Computers to Kids distribution event coming up. That's on March 4th at Kearney High School. All students from around the county are welcome to come. It's Computers to Kids. It's a great organization that either gives or sells fully loaded computers, fully revamped laptops to students. I believe it's about $100, but they'll take whatever families can pay, and it gets them in the hands of students. They come with a lifetime warranty. They'll switch them out. You have any problems, they have tech support and all of that. So that again is happening at Kearney High School. We have the next Curious About series, which will be curious about wearable technologies, things that you wear on your bodies, where that's going and what that might have to do with education. There's a registration link there. If you're interested in some of our previous Curious About series, we also have a link to our playlist where you can see where we talked about blockchain, NFTs, and just recently AI, things like ChatGPT. We also have the EdTech Network coming up May 9th. We're going to be looking at some kind of summer planning and a little bit of goal setting with students. And then we have coming up February 28th, it's the start of a revamp of what used to be the Learning and Innovation Summit. So we realize that people are maybe not really wanting to spend a full day in trainings. So we have presenters who are interested in doing more hands-on learning that you might go to a conference and experience, but this would be once, I think it's about it might be once a month, once every 2 weeks, just different examples of really cool things that people are doing in their classrooms, and there's links to those. The link to the presentation today is going to be up in one of the corners, upper top corner or the down low corner. So if you're interested in having that slide deck, you can click on the, you can type in the bit.ly link that you see. I also will be sending all of this information out to you in a follow-up email. So if you just want to sit back and enjoy and not click on things, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, so to get us started with VR and AR, I have an interesting clip today. This is Chris Hemsworth, and it was a new series that he has called Limitless. And I really like this clip because it shows his experience in VR. And I believe that it helps to show, again, why it's so powerful. We'll talk a little bit about that. I'm just going to go ahead and play it. Thumbs up if you can hear it.
To be honest, I'm really not that keen on heights. Whoa, see you guys. The VR experience is fascinating. Whoa. Wow. One part of my brain is very aware that it's not real. And the other part of it is screaming, this is crazy, what are we doing? We're gonna die. And I look down and everything starts to kind of, I feel like I have vertigo. Oh, that's so weird.
Okay, so in that clip, Chris is trying to push his body to the limit so he can understand his emotional state and get himself to go out there and do things that he's not very comfortable doing. And in that, you can see he talks about putting on this VR headset. He feels like he's going up in an elevator, 30 stories above the street level, and he's got to walk out on a plank. And he's saying it feels weird and his heart starts racing and he's really uncomfortable by it all. And that is part of what makes VR so interesting, is the way that people respond to it when they're in it. So why are people interested in AR and VR so much? Not just because they're exciting and fun, but because they're really powerful learning experiences that people have in them. So there's two big concepts when you're talking about AR and VR. There's this idea of a sense of presence. So even though Chris knew he was not really out on that bridge, stepping out above, the street level, there's a part of his brain that is processing it as if he really is there. It's your limbic system. It's one of the most earliest parts of your brain through evolution. Like sometimes it's called the reptilian part of your brain, and it's processing it as if it's real. So even though you may know you're not there, there's a part of your brain that's processing it as an experience. And that's where that idea of experiential learning comes in. In a way, you're learning by doing. So it's combining visual and kinesthetic parts of your brain to map location and mood. It's learning that's associated with muscle memory, and it's really good for learning skills, but it also is mixing the sense of presence with emotion. So there's a huge impact in terms of social emotional learning and empathy building. So those two things combined are what is making VR not only just fun for students, but it's a type of memory that really sticks. Okay, so here's this video I'm just going to play as I'm going. So again, you can see people, they're walking out on this plank. It's an experience, and the plank is real, but what they're experiencing out there on the plank is not real. So their sense of presence, their sense of being there, if they really can't walk out on that plank, is pretty strong. I know I have a big sense of presence when I'm in VR. If there's a dinosaur walking up behind me, I don't like it, and I actually have to take the VR headset off. I cannot even begin to imagine doing anything involving zombies, ghosts, or things coming at me. So that would be me. I'd be crawling out on the plank. All right. And then just to talk about that idea of experiential learning, I've got 3 images here for you. On your left is the real experience. So this is the museum, the Anne Frank Museum. I believe it's in Amsterdam. On your left is a picture from that museum of the staircase that was, or the bookcase that was hiding the staircase into the part of the family apartments where they were living. That's an experience that people can have. It can be very powerful. And I guarantee if you go to that museum, you'll remember it. Students often just get experiences through video, or they might have images from textbooks. So the middle image is an archival image based on that exact same spot. However, on the right-hand side, you have the experience in virtual reality. So someone has gone through, mapped the entire museum space, and then put it into an experience that you can then wear a headset and you can virtually walk through and Frank's house, thus making it, again, that experiential, really powerful learning. And if you look at the two pictures, one is a real picture and one is a virtual picture, and they're almost indistinguishable. And the thing with the virtual reality too is that you can have overlays of audio explaining what you're seeing. You can see up in the upper right-hand corner of the VR experience, there's a little bit of written explanation that people can look at. So it might be that if you go to Amsterdam, they're going to be talking in a language that you don't understand. I haven't been there, I don't know. But in the VR experience, anyone can do it from anywhere, anytime, and they're going to have a really powerful learning experience. Okay, so just a quick discussion about the differences between AR, VR, MR, XR. What are all these things and what do they mean? So virtual reality is an artificial environment. It's where you are experiencing sensory stimuli like sounds and imagery that are provided by a computer. And all of those actions and your actions can determine what's happening in the environment. So you're moving around in the environment or you're interacting with the environment somehow, but you are completely immersed in it. It's like being there. So you'll hear people say, yeah, I was kind of not in my own world for a little while. Augmented reality, or AR, is where you have overlays of reality or computer information, but you're still in the normal real world. You can see your environment. The picture of the dinosaur is actually the view from main campus at SDCOE. And I did this a couple of years ago and just put the dinosaur out there. I was using an iPad at the time. Another really a good example of AR would be Pokemon Go. So if you see people holding their phones and they're standing around, they're playing a game where they've put this little character and they're trying to earn points as they wander around their real environment, looking for these little trigger images. So I'm going to show a quick video on mixed reality, but the idea here is that you're blending the two realities. It's a little bit of virtual reality, it's a little bit of augmented reality.
Mixed reality breaks down the barriers between physical and virtual realities. Let's see how we can alter realities across people, places, and objects. Here we have a real office, populated with real things. Let's now adjust reality by adding virtual objects to this physical space. Notice how these objects are aware of the real surfaces in the office. Next, let's replace the real person with an avatar. This allows her to be present even though she is not physically in the room. Now let's adjust the environment itself and make it virtual. Notice how the virtual objects and avatar continue to persist. Finally, let's tie back this entire virtual scene to the original physical room. A subtle boundary grid can reveal real obstacles, making it safer to walk around this virtual environment. Mixed reality unlocks exciting new experiences that merge the physical and the virtual worlds.
Okay, so in this example, I'm going to bring the video back a tiny bit. You can see that you have a little bit of the real world, but it's being augmented with a computerized version. And that's the idea of mixed reality, that you'll be able to see the walls of your space so that you don't walk into them. That's what those little white dots are coming up. But then you also could sit down at your desk. You would be able to see your computer. You would know if something was in your space. You may have friends who can visit you through an avatar. All of these things they're starting to get here. There's a lot of things currently that are mixed realities, but I think as we continue on in this AR, VR journey that the world is in, you're going to see that blending of the two more and more. So one big idea for you today is that that term XR is sort of all encapsulating. It means that immersive technology spectrum. So XR It's kind of X like X Gen X is, or anything that has that X in the beginning of it. It's sort of a panacea of everything. So in terms of immersive technologies, you have augmented reality on one side, virtual reality on the other, and it's sort of a blend in between. And as these technologies become more ubiquitous within our society, those differences between AR and VR, and whether, you know, how mixed it is or how immersive it is, are becoming less and less important. It's just sort of all within this idea of being an immersive state. So I see I have a couple questions in the chat. I'm going to check those really quickly. Okay, we have some wrong dates and things. All right, perfect. Does anyone have any questions about the differences between all of those before we move on to the next section? And I'll just look for hands up or anything in the chat. Okay, perfect. So when you're thinking about augmented and virtual realities, here's the power in it too. And I am blatantly stealing this. I put their link up in the upper left-hand corner from a company called Infinity Learning, but they talk about their product this way, but it also seems to be very relevant to AR and VR. Imagine shrink rays, spaceships, and time machines. Because AR and VR can shrink you down so that you can go into the human body. If you've ever seen the Magic School Bus, imagine you're on the school bus and you are now touring the digestive tract with Miss Frizzle. It can make you super huge so that you can see the universe from afar, right? It can take you on a spaceship. You can go out and look at the planets. You can go places where we really can't go. And it can take you back in time. So the Anne Frank Museum is a really good idea of what that might look like, or doing simulations where you actually get to go through Jamestown or the pyramids and see what life was like back in the day. Possibly it could even take you into the future. So with that in mind, I'm going to introduce my colleague. Her name is Renee Jaeger. She's a third grade teacher at Dewey Elementary, and she's had some experiences when she was a STEAM teacher over at Carson Elementary that she's going to talk to us about today. Renee's having a little trouble with her camera, so you're going to hear her voice, but I'm sorry, you won't be able to see her wonderful face. But Renee, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it over.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you, even though you can't see me. I'm looking at all your lovely faces right now. As Pam said, I was lucky enough to be in a situation where I was at a STEAM school as a resource teacher for 2 years, and they were getting, funded, and we had a lot of money to kind of like situate the school with a good offering of different things and experiences for students. And one of the things that we kind of delved into was getting at the VR. And so we had worked on it was called Google Expeditions at the time. And Pam, I think, has let me know that it's no longer available for purchase. But it was a whole system that was set up for Pam. I was going to go to the next screen,
Okay.
But I think you gave me, oh, sorry about that. I probably didn't need to yet, but the whole system was self-inclusive. So it came with the headsets, and each headset, you would put a little phone in it. It all linked to a teacher tablet. So as the students were experiencing this VR, it was really the only thing they could go to. They weren't able to go to anything else on the device. But once we started getting some of these materials in, we realized kind of the flaw in the thinking was, because as teachers, we had no experience with what VR was or what it could do. Before we could even think about trying to embed it or put it into our content, we had to take the time to, I'm going to say, play and explore with it, kind of like we would do with the kids. So one of our first things that we did, it kind of sat unused for a while, I'll be honest, probably, 3 to 6 months before we said, hey, let's start getting some of these things out and getting the devices into the hands of the teachers. So you can see right here on the left, that was one of our first trainings where we brought them out introduced them to the teacher, and you'll see this gal in the front. She kind of took over the tablet. There was like a teacher tablet, and there was a script that went along with these virtual tours. And so she kind of just naturally took over the lead of being the teacher. And in her group, they were going to share out, but she kind of liked that role. And her students are all kind of following along and experiencing what she's talking about on her virtual tour. Now, I will be honest, this is probably after about 20 or 30 minutes of everybody going in and going, where else can we go, and exploring. And so it was kind of a process of seeing the teachers get excited about being able to travel to places they've never been. Like, people were shouting out, you know, the Eiffel Tower, like every place they wanted to go. And so it was kind of like building that, getting the teachers ingrained in it. Can you hear my dog barking? I'm sorry. He's very tough today. Apparently the birds are bothering him. And so we had them come in, kind of look around. We had just picked out a few to kind of keep them on track and on schedule, but the excitement built. And from there, we were able to kind of like translate that and start going into the classrooms with it. You'll see, like, it was a whole integrated in the back. If you look at that back black cart, that's where it was all kept. So it had its own self-contained storage. We came in another day, and the same teacher that took the lead came in another day just to explore with students. And what we had realized is they want to go to a lot of different places. So we actually had put up 3 to 4 tours, and we did them in small groups, and they moved through the small groups. So they got to tour more than one place. And so that kind of kept it a little more like, okay, we're on this one, but we can move around. So they got to experience with this group quite a few different places. You'll see them, it was kind of, how am I going to say, entertaining to see them do things like almost roll over on the rug, because they would get so into moving with their VRs that their whole bodies would be wiggling and moving, trying to get more of the picture and turning around and like just walking into the walls. Go ahead. Thanks, Pam.
It was cool because it took them, this one was, you're hearing kids going, turtles, turtles. It actually took them underwater.
This was
never
the
actually
undersea.
experienced.
The other really probably most popular was going to outer space. So when you would kind of start looking through their menu, they had, I mean, it was just unbelievable, some of the places that we went and some of the things you could do with them. Like, a lot of the national parks had them. Like I said, the one to outer space, the kids were just like insane. Are we traveling to space? So with these, because they had all the squirrely little movements, they might like kick off, but like this guy's a first grader, and he was able to, like, they got, by the second session, they were able to just take them out and do the troubleshooting and get them right back in and get it up and running, because they didn't want to be without their device. And this system was set up so everybody could have their own. No one had to share or duplicate. I would say with, I did it with a range of teachers. So we probably did more of the introduction of it with the teachers. I did it from first grade through 5th grade. I don't think I had any kinders come through, but one of the teachers that came through the most, she was a first grade teacher, and we ended up doing, we planned, but our plan failed miserably the first time. We thought we could have them come in. And at the time, she was working on a standard of, I think, icons and famous places. And so we went and with hers, Pam, I'm going to go to the next screen.
Sure.
Oops, hang on one sec. Oop. Thank you, Pam, for doing it for me. Sorry, I forgot my mouse. You'd think I was like, my computer was new. So her thing was visiting famous places, and then she wanted to have them write a postcard home. Well, we tried to do all of that in the first session, but just like with the teachers, it got a little, I'm going to say the excitement was out of control as we were visiting places. So what we did was we did our first session, and I think we went to Mount Rushmore, but I think what they heard was Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 as they were walking around Mount Rushmore. So we kind of called it quits. Then we came back. We actually just said, let's ignore the first session. That was training them with the technology. Then we set up a second session and we let them, I think we went to outer space. Then we went under the sea. And then we came back in another session. And that's when we went back to the famous place so that they could retain some of the information and some of the, so that they could draw and write a postcard, which she then mailed to their houses so that they could share what they had learned. And they drew the pictures from what they could see on the lenses. And so that worked really well, but we were kind of like overly ambitious and really had to like scale it back and go, we forgot the same thing that we had was the excitement of it and kind of build that back in. And so we went to, and that one worked out really nicely when we came back and revisited it, and they were getting to be quite the experts on it. And that teacher I would say was very, a little bit, feels like if technology is working, if she becomes involved, technology stops working. And so for her to come back 3 or 4 times, and by about the last session, she was like, you know, I don't want to jinx myself, but I think I could do this on my own now. Like she was feeling very confident and comfortable that she could come in and get the whole thing set up. And she was setting it up herself. I was just there as her moral support, which seemed to help her a lot. And then we had another teacher that we just kind of used it as, she liked to write. She was 3rd grade. And so they would do descriptive writing paragraphs. And she was kind of like, as a prompt, she was using it as a visual prompt. And so what she started doing was she would just kind of randomly pick a different place to go, someplace where they might not have a lot of knowledge of. And then as she was going through it, she would follow the teacher's script, but she would also put in like, how could we describe the mountains? How could we talk about, you know, what's it feel like being under the water? And so she was trying to develop that descriptive writing from them to meet that standard for her 3rd grade. And she kind of felt like going in and immersing, she felt she was getting some of that creative writing that just looking at a picture, it might not be the same effect. And so she was kind of working towards using it as to help her with her writing too. I'm trying to think, the teachers with the 4th and 5th graders were a little more independent. They would go in and use it, but because the kids are older and could do the technology, they were just like, okay, you know, we're going to use it at this time. And so it was quite I would say the excitement for the experience was off the charts. Like it is just something none of them had ever experienced before. And being able to, as they said, travel to all these different places and the language they were using, producing it as they were talking. We would do some turn and talk to your partner. We tried the first couple times, turn and talk to your partner, unsuccessful. By about the 3rd or 4th session with 1st grade, they could stop for a minute, turn and talk with their partner, and describe what they were seeing or describe where they had been, which, you know, I think for that age, they were starting to grasp what they were doing and some of these opportunities that they were like, I can't believe we're here in the outer space. We just went by the moon. And you would just, and it was unbelievable for them. I still think about it and I'm like, it's unbelievable.
Awesome.
And the other thing that we also used as we were having like family nights, we did use it for marketing. We would go to the Linda Vista cultural parade. It was one of the things we would bring with us. We usually set it up for our after school events so that parents could use it. We kind of tried to use it to we were going out and trying to do our garden as a selling point, and we would usually take them to parent meetings so that the parents could see the tools and could get involved and see what they could do. And they liked traveling with them. They always had great ideas. The thing I had forgotten with the one class, I thought they would be limited, and I don't know why, because we asked them, where would you, if you could go anywhere, where would you want to go? They had lists and lists of places they wanted to go. And then they would see me in the hall and go, can you add to our list of places to visit? And I was just busy always looking to see if there was already one made for that place. And so kids were just blown away by the idea that they could see all these places up close and personal and travel to outer space and to go under the water. But any questions, comments?
Yeah. Somebody had asked, what's the availability of the gear now? And I know Renee and I had talked about that. The Google Expeditions gear is not exactly available anymore. So that was discontinued, but there are other options out there. There's Classroom VR, there's VR, Lenovo VR. I think they call it, there's Class VR and VR Classroom by different companies. So there are other options available. And I was just about to put in the chat, you are always welcome to contact the County Office of Ed and specifically email either Alicia Gallegos Butters or myself, Pamela Rabin, if you want to talk about options or you want to talk about what you're thinking about for your school. We consult, that's what we're here for. So I'm very happy to have those kinds of conversations and even talk about things like what Renee's doing. And if you're trying to write grants, the more students you can use it with, the more that the whole school takes it on, even if you don't have a person dedicated like they do. If you have a team of teachers, maybe a tech team, or and you're saying that you're going to use it in these various areas, not just in classrooms, but also as after school programs or as, parent engagement type events, then those are things that we can help you with those ideas as well. And then I can see I have a couple questions that were to me, and I will answer those when we have our next guest, who is up next. Thank you, Renee, for sharing your experiences. It's really helpful. I think her idea about having the teachers, getting them on board first and having teachers really understand how to use it is a great learned lesson that we can all kind of put under our cap for if we're doing this ourselves. Get to know it yourself, get the teachers to know it, get that out there, and the excitement that they have will help you with getting it out to the students. Okay, so Christine Dixon is our next guest. And Christine, I'm going to unshare and let you share if that's okay, unless you'd like me to.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Christine is you're an innovation coordinator in TOSA at Double Peak K-8 school in San Marcos, and it's now your show.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to, I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to share my my presentation as well, because it has lots of links and everything. But just to go off of what following Renee, Google Expeditions was amazing. I'm still so bummed that they stopped that, but I just do want to tell you, I do have hope, because we love Google, that they'll come up with something that we can go on field trips and everything like that. There's a lot of options out there. But I do want to mention that I actually don't have VR equipment. I actually was like so excited to start AR VR with my students. So I reached out to a big tech company in the community or San Diego County. And I said, hey, I know you have some phones in those drawers that, are outdated, because of company phones. And I just had to write up what I would be using it for. And I was lucky to get 10 iPhones and then 10 Samsungs. You need to always look up the specs. So when I was using it for Google Expeditions, you had to have a certain phone. Could it be that old? But that's everything that I show. You'll see they're the phones that were donated. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to the community and see if there's phones that you can use. So that's helpful too. All right, I am going to share my presentation there, and I'll share my screen. You definitely want to grab that link so that you have access, because I have a lot of student work that I'm sharing. All right. Okay. I usually have 2 screens, but I don't. So Pam, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so Pam and STCOE invited me to share with you because they know that I was using a tool called CoSpaces. I do a lot of AR, VR, minus Google Expeditions, but something that I really love is something called CoSpaces. So I am going to share what that is and how you can start that with your students. But basically, instead of just consuming and viewing AR, VR, which is super awesome, they can actually create their own augmented and virtual realities. This video here, I have this video here that I highly recommend you showing your students. They get really excited about it and what the differences are. But because of time, I'll just let you explore that later. This is see what this is our virtual our VR headsets. So you just slip the phone inside there. This is just it's called Merge, which goes with Merge Cube that I'll show you just on Amazon. But someone had asked about Google Cardboard. You absolutely could use that with Google Cardboard. So what we're using at this time, they were doing Google Expeditions, but CoSpaces is an app that you can use. This is a intro to CoSpaces. Because of time, I'm not going to press play on that, but you can always go back to that. This right here is examples of some 4th grade California 22nd missions. So what they did was they created, instead of creating a mission physically, they created their own AR, VR. So I'm actually going to get out of full screen here and show you. This is one example here. And this is also what's really cool with CoSpaces is that students can collaborate on the same CoSpace. So they did this from scratch. They created there was a lot of research done before they actually created the CoSpace. But right now what we're doing is we're looking at it on the computer, and they've coded. There's a lot of coding in CoSpaces, but not hard coding. It's just block based. And so there's different scenes here, but you can walk through it using the arrow keys. But if you can imagine, if we put this in a VR headset, you would be able to look around your whole creation. And augmented reality is you place it in the room. So you tap the phone and their creation comes to life in the room. So that's one example here. This one right here is another. We have so many examples that you can look through.
Come follow us into the church.
Okay. Around. Oh my gosh, sorry. Look around and explore, but lots of cool things. But there's facts and coding and all of that. So that's just a little sneak peek of what CoSpaces, the mission projects. This right here, really, you could do any topic. You could have them teach about math. You can have them teach about. Right here was I believe 7th grade. It was Mesoamerica. I'll play this video just so you can see. This is using the Merge Cube, which is more augmented reality. So they built this in CoSpaces. And there's no sound there, but you can see the Merge Cubes. It's this right here. You can see that, and you can see how the Merge Cube is, or what they created in CoSpaces is on the Merge Cube. But Merge Cube isn't necessary for CoSpaces. It's just an extra thing you could do with that. There's those there. Okay, let me show you here. Because of time, I'm not going to go through these, but if you're interested in seeing all the different or some examples of how you can tie in AR, VR with content, there's some ideas here. But really, like I said, you can use it for anything. So this is what I, from this slide to down below, this is what I send or that I have my students join. So they click on this to join, they sign in with Google, and then they enter a class code. Now, let me move this. What the CoSpaces is probably one of the only things that I use so much that is a paid program, but you can do it for 30 days free trial. And sometimes there's tricky ways to use different emails if you wanted to, but it's something that I love so much, and it's so much learning opportunities that I pay for it for all my 4th grade. But if you want to try this out, you get a teacher account by using this this code right here. You can absolutely use it, the free version. It's just limited. So so this right here is the tutorials. This is if they watch the video, and the tutorials are here, and the checklist of the things that they can do. So if you wanted to use this and try it out, Renee said something about, I call it play to learn, or learn by playing with the teachers. And that's exactly what I do with my teachers and students. Is it's a new tool. Let's just figure it out. Let's play. And once they play to learn and figure this out, then we bring in the content. So they actually come into the Innovation Lab for 8 days. Each class comes in for 8 40-minute sessions. So I do this the first 4 days. They are working on just playing to learn. And then this right here is where, and they dive deeper, and this right here is where they have the requirements. They should have 2 to 4 stage backgrounds, characters, movement, sound, dialogue, coding, and then the teacher can just let me know what content they want them to show. And that is CoSpaces. So I think there's some things in the chat, so let's see.
Yeah. I don't know that there are any questions. I know there are a lot of people kind of posting. I was posting a lot too. But so Christine, how do your students, like, what is their reaction to it?
It's they absolutely love it. And like I said, it's so good. It's such a good, amazing platform that that I pay for it. But I've also gotten tricky about my 4th graders start their this mission project right now. So I actually get the subscription in January because that's when I start teaching my students so that they know how to use it before they have to get into the content. And then they have it until the following year. So as 5th graders, they can use it and they know how to use it really well at the beginning of the year up until January. And then I scoot them out of my account, and then I have my new 4th graders. So lots of different ways to like get the most bang for your buck for it.
And they are they're also able to go in and they can work in the environment. They can collaborate. That's right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's,
like,
yeah, let me stop sharing my screen here. I'll share it if I need to show us something again. So they you make an assignment, and then you can pair them up, which is great. I actually recommend having them when they're learning by playing and play to learn. They both have their computers, and they both are collaborating, doing the same thing, but both doing it so that they really get to know the tool. Because then when they're in, like a shared Google Doc or shared slide, like you got to be careful about, messing with different things. So they both learn individually, but yet collaborating when they're playing to learn. And then when they're creating their like important mission project, then you just assign them and they're in the same thing, which a lot of tools don't. I mean, we know Google does, but I was so excited to see that this collaborative piece was there. So it's great.
perfect. Okay. Any questions for Christine?
How much does the co-pro for each student? I would have to look that up. It's if you just go to CoSpaces and you go to price.
Yeah. I put the link in there for you.
Yeah.
The other thing I noted, which you touched on, Christine, was that they have amazing supports and lesson plans and things like that for teachers. And again, in terms of that AR and VR. It definitely falls within the virtual reality. And part of the reason I like it is that you can get started right away, and you don't even have to, you don't have to have headsets to experience that kind of planning and constructing in virtual reality. So students who are familiar with Minecraft are going to pick this up really quickly. Minecraft is also another excellent online through your tablet type of creation tool for VR. But the fact that with CoSpaces, they can actually build something and then go in and look at it if you have headsets is just kind of icing on the cake to me.
And Pam, you could, if you don't have anything right now, I highly just try CoSpaces, because you can even pull them once they create, you can pull them over if you have an iPad, or even just using your phone, like let them see their, even with one device. Parents they have their QR code, so they can go home and they can look at least an AR if they don't have the VR. And
the lessons build too. So if you start they give you lessons, and you can just start with the day one lesson, and each lesson that you put them through will teach them the skills that they need, and you can kind of learn along with them.
Someone said, is it appropriate for, or Terry said, is this appropriate for older students? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you saw the 7th grade, I'm not sure if you're thinking high school, but absolutely. It's really, I started in 4th grade just to protect it for them, because what we do for 4th grade. But you could even do earlier. Also on top of that, someone said, Renee said, do they have coding experience? They do. My students do have coding experience. We start coding in kindergarten. However, it's block-based, super simple, easy to figure out. I promise it's really easy.
Okay, cool. And again, you're always welcome to reach out to the County Office of Ed, and I'm happy to talk with people. If you tell us what your goals are with AR and VR, if you are interested in, if you suddenly find that you have some extra money at your school and they're like, we need to buy something, reach out and we can look to maximize the experiences that students will have. I always kind of recommend not getting a class set of headsets, but thinking of it as maybe a center to start with, or, maybe 4 headsets and then some iPads to go along with that if you can. So kind of having a variation in the kit. But again, you're always welcome to reach out and we can talk with you about that. We don't charge for consultation services or anything like that. It's just, we're here to support teachers and districts. So I'm actually going to switch gears a little bit, and I don't know if Mark or Jessica, if you want to share your screen, but we said that we take a look at some of what's going on in industry, because often that informs kind of where our students are heading and what things might be trickling down into the classroom in terms of learning. So I'm going to hand it off, I believe, to Mark or Jessica, and I'm going to let you two take it from here.
Yeah, I can kick it off. So aside from being just a super fun way to learn, it's AR, VR, XR is all has come from industry and is exploding in industry right now. So the sooner we can get these tools in the hands of kids, the better prepared they'll be for the future. Tools like virtual collaboration, simulated training, learning acceleration, doesn't matter where they are in location, and on-demand learning are all ways industry is using it. The term augmented reality actually came from Boeing researchers, so aerospace applications, first into industrial applications and then out to consumers. And then now we're seeing it in education as well. As far as the field, the industry of education, if you will, we've seen some great examples of AR and VR. Here are a couple other ones. Amplifier AR is a platform that has been turning posters, so artwork, static artwork, into something that you can use their app to view on your phone and have it come alive. So these are posters hanging in our office, but if you use the app to overlay it, they come to life, they turn and talk to you. You can link podcasts, extra information, and students can design these and add layers to it as they wish. Also, just some other kind of fun tools to kind of incentivize learning and make it a little more engaging. And then training. So using AR and VR has been huge in training in a lot of different industries, especially those that can be dangerous to train in, or challenging to do ethically. So things like military training, skilled training, or skilled trades like welding, very hard to get actual experiential learning in a safe way, but also you can't just enter the field without that training. So AR and VR kind of bridges the gap between what's possible to do without actually getting yourself into a dangerous situation. Healthcare as well is another one of those kind of ethically tricky ways, industries to practice in. And also they're using AR and VR to actually perform surgeries and pull records in the midst of surgeries or procedures without having to like step away. They can use overlays to kind of see things. So really exciting stuff that's happening in healthcare.
And then I can take over from here. So also space agencies, like this kind of goes back to the concept of if it's, very expensive or dangerous, or if they're not even trying to go into an area yet before going through stuff, they'll use this technology in order to kind of bridge that gap. So I think it goes without saying that space is very expensive to get to. So the space industry is also using it to do practice runs of missions. And then in manufacturing, kind of along a similar line, because oftentimes in manufacturing, advanced manufacturing labs, it can just be dangerous in that space to be untrained. And so a lot of these companies are using training to essentially streamline the process, allow employees to move more quickly and safely and kind of learn the intangibles of the space. And then also management gets to essentially see a preview of how humans operate within the space, so it can be more effectively designed for a streamlined work experience. And then as well as sports, a lot of sports agencies are using VR to essentially create, look at how humans are performing in certain areas and how they kind of refine their techniques in order to kind of become that upper echelon athlete. So almost every Olympic agency actually employs some form of VR. And you can kind of see how it works in this GIF below, where you're seeing a person run and then how a more optimal run would be. And then you can also see a baseball player working on their swing. Football often uses like for quarterback training, so they can kind of see certain scenarios of a playbook they'll bring in so they can kind of practice plays beforehand. Golf swing, there's a lot of applications within sports for VR. And then something that actually is kind of cool is VR tourism. So a lot of like hotels and resorts are allowing people to preview their rooms in order to essentially say like, yes, this is what I want. This is the room I want to get. They'll do a preview of the room before they like rent it and then physically travel to that location. And then obviously, as we mentioned before, you can go specifically places like to museums and stuff that might not be accessible to a general tourist as well.
And even the places you can travel, there are some exciting ways that they're using AR, VR, like this upper left corner, a hotel designed AR quest that kids can go on just in their facility and find different things and different achievements. You can use Google Translate Live to translate different languages if you're in a different country. Google Live Navigation takes it a step further from just looking on a map and trying to figure out where you are in a space to actually overlaying arrows and directions where you should be walking. And then museums that you can visit have self-guided tours in AR, much like the old school headsets and Walkmans where you'd walk around and it would kind of talk you through the exhibits. Now you can use your cell phone and actually just look and have information overlaid as you walk through the museum space.
I've seen where they're doing almost a hologram docent that will be standing there and you're looking through your phone telling you about a painting that you're standing next to.
And then the entertainment industry has also picked up VR, I think for obvious reasons. One of the more popular games that most people recognize is Beat Saber, as you see there. But also movies and TV shows have tried to create this interactive experience, and only because Pam mentioned it, there's also another VR game called Phasmophobia, where you become a ghost hunter. So Pam, I'm sure you would love that video game. But yeah, so the entertainment industry as a whole has picked it up as well.
Not if it's behind me.
And then products, retail and marketing are also using AR and VR just to create more enriching experiences. Like I'm sure some of you may have seen these wines, 19 crimes, where there's an app you can download and the label will turn and talk to you. And similar technology with business cards where you can overlay, like Pam said, kind of a hologram of yourself. We kind of discussed how this would be cool to use for like senior portfolios or presentations that students have to give, to have a card or a poster and have them AR overlaid over it to explain their project would be cool.
Okay, well, that is our presentation for you today. So there's so much out there in the world of AR and VR. And again, we're just dipping our toes in the water today. But it is part of the mission of the EdTech department. One of the goals that we have from the SDCOE board is to bring innovation to the county and kind of beyond that cutting edge of what's happening. So if you are interested in these things, and we're constantly working to try and figure out how do I make those talking posters? How can I bring VR into my classroom? The county currently has 28 VR headsets, and we are working on a program to bring them out to schools that are interested. So you're always, if you're like, hey, I might like to have this come to my classroom for a visit, just so your students can experience it, you're welcome to reach out to me. We are starting a program where we're going out to school sites with them. We can handle about 20 students, 25 students at a time. But yeah, give me an email. I'll put my email in, or Mark, if you don't mind sticking my email in the chat for me. But it's something that we're definitely interested, we're definitely curious about. And we wanted to just kind of have out there and begin to have people see the potential for learning. We're starting to explore more how it might be used for social emotional learning, how it might be used with populations of students who have special needs or different types of learning, different types of ways that they express themselves, all of that, how it can be used for empathy building. So those are things that we're exploring. And if you're interested, again, always just let us know. Are there any other questions for us at this time? On that last slide, I think we have, and again, if you'd like the slide deck, I'll be sending that out in a follow-up email, but we also have some of the next upcoming Curious About series. We have Curious About Wearable Technologies. I think we have a Curious About VAPA, because we know that there was just a big grant and funding, and Jessica's going to be leading that one. And I'm trying to remember what the other one was, Jessica, or Mark, if you remember.
Wearable
technology.
Yeah, if you have anything that you are curious about, you can let us know and we'll find out for you about it. And we're happy to dig into it and just kind of figure it out as we go. All right, thank you. And that with that, I'm going to say have a wonderful evening. Thank you for sticking with us. It is 5 o'clock.